A young lady that I knew very well was having issues, having mental problems, and parked her car along a busy road, took her child out of the car while she was pregnant, and stepped in front of a semi. Now, the story there doesn't thankfully end there. She died. She's in heaven. But the child that was in her arms survived and is doing well. But that's when I first learned that mental health, especially amongst women, isn't as easily defined as a lot of men would like to say. And unfortunately, the men in the conservative party are losing this battle dramatically because they shouldn't even be fighting the battle the way they are fighting it. And I would like to talk about that, and I'd like to present what exactly we're dealing with. And of course, if you don't know what this is the story, not that, but I'm going to be talking about the story of Lindsay Clancy and everything that's surrounding her and all the controversies that have come up since Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh have decided to stick their noses in this and make things so much worse than it possibly could have been. And it doesn't even end there. The other names that I didn't even collect, all the other names that have been commenting things that are ridiculous. I'm Caleb Smith, and this is the Tradesman Talk Show. Common man's perspective on politics and issues of the world of today. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, a lot of men in the conservative world don't understand why we're losing the interest of women, why the women are not really interested in our party anymore. And unfortunately, it's because we've decided for some reason, I don't say we as in including me, but we on the conservative party side have decided to all of a sudden start embracing the weird sections of the manosphere that are doing absolutely no good and are even contrary to the Bible. But let's go with it. Why not? Well, let's make ourselves miserable. Let's just do that. That's a great idea. And I'm going to dive right into it. I'm going to give you some negative to start off with, and then I'm going to give you some positive, and then some more negative. So here we go. And this is a problem. And if you are a woman today who's dealt with any kind of mental health and are anything close to the story I started off with or as I began this, you'll understand exactly the problem here. Now, in this video, I didn't get the video, but I did pull this from Matt Walsh's ex. So it says, end wokeness, and a lot of these people are people that in many ways I would agree with sometimes. It's becoming less and less like it, unfortunately. But here is a lady, and she was rocking back and forth in tears. And I don't know why she put this online again. You know, putting things online is always just asking for trouble, but it's probably because she's reaching out. It's a form of reaching out. And she says, same Lindsay. Now, because I have a prefrontal cortex, I understood that she didn't mean same Lindsay, I want to murder my children. She meant same Lindsay, I am struggling, and I get the struggle. That didn't seem all that hard to understand. But then here's End Wokeness says, bad enough to, quote, relate with a child killer. To do it while holding your baby is, to put it mildly, an alarming decision. And then Matt Walsh, not to be outdone, because of course he can never be outdone, decides to say she should lose custody of the child immediately. She is a danger to her family. Why do you think women are afraid to tell people of their mental health problems? Why is that, do you think? Now, I know several. We've been in a church for a long time, done counseling with a lot of families, and I've heard and know firsthand a lot of accounts as to why women will not tell their stories of their mental problems. And I wonder, when you're threatening to take her child away because she has a mental problem or is just having a rough time, I wonder why she would think that, Matt. I wonder why she would think that. Here, another one. It says over 25,000 Lindsay Clancy fans have now raised over $835,000 after she admitted to murdering her 3 young children. The GoFundMe account has been flooded with positive messages from her female supporters who are convinced she is the victim. Now, the sad part is, again, I did a video on this, so I'm not going to rehash it. There are many things that make it clear that either she was, at best, in such an extremely altered mind and alone that this happened? Or potentially, some people are alleging there's a good position here that her husband may have driven her to it or even have done it. So, and there's a lot of evidence for that. It's not just, oh, let me see this and this. It's not Candace string theory here. Matt Walsh, of course, has to one-up everything and goes, by the way, while I was doing this, and this is a commentary on Matt Walsh, okay? Matt Walsh, you suck as a husband. You know how I know? Because when I was looking at your ex here, trying to go through it, and I'm prepping my stuff. My wife was in the room helping me with it, not just helping me with it, but just being around, kind of like around my family. I kind of like being around my family. And I was looking at his stuff, and literally it was an X from him, or tweet, or whatever you want to call them now. One at least every hour for, I couldn't even catch them all. Going back, like it was like, this was 7 hours ago, this was 8 hours ago, this was 9 hours ago, this was 10 hours ago, this was 11 hours ago, and then a couple at 11 hours ago, and then a couple at 12 hours ago, and then a couple at 13 hours ago. And I go, what are you doing, my man? You've got nothing going on at home? You got so many nannies and people taking care of your children for you, and you got so much stuff being, because you're a big channel, so you got all the money in the world, that you have all the time in the world to just hang out and do the sex. Go ahead. Okay, cool. Unspeakable evil. This whole thing has been eye-opening in the worst ways. I'll never be able to unsee thousands of women rallying in the defense of a demon who strangled her children to death. One of the darkest things I've ever seen in my life. Between this and Carmelo. I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it a lot more. The women are not rallying, you dolt, for a demon and a murderer. They're rallying around the idea that women need help when they're going through these greatest trials of their life. That's what they're asking help for. That's what they're rallying around. You crackpot. Next. Someone was going after him a little bit and says, Matt can't accept that this isn't a spiritual failing and could happen to anyone. And what they're talking about is her mental health. Her mental health. They're not saying that the murdering could happen to anyone else. I mean, we do say it, in the Christian circles, except for by the grace of God, there go I. So don't hold yourself too high there, Master Matt. But Matt can't accept that this isn't a spiritual failing. And this is a good note to mention for pastors out there too, and believers in Christ. There are these things called hormones. They can do crazy things to you. And not all of that is because someone did something wrong or is spiritually failing or lacking. And you're a hypocrite loser if you think so. This could happen to anyone, including his wife. Irrespective of politics and religious ideology, it's much easier to demonize all women and suggest that they all harbor this desire to harm their own children. Shameful, and it is shameful. And he responds with, what? In the first sentence, you claim that murdering your children is something that could happen to anyone. And then in the next sentence, you accuse me of suggesting that all women harbor the desire to murder their own children. It seems you're the one doing exactly that. No, they're not saying this. I don't understand why it's so hard to see the disconnect there, but it is. Women, am I the only one seeing this? Am I the only one reading this and seeing this and saying, guys, that's not what they're saying. That's not what anyone is saying. I want to go murder my children. That's not what they're saying. What they're saying is there's a mental problem and there's no help many times and you're out on your own many times. And if you look at the videos of Lindsay Clancy, she was left by herself. Her husband turns down help from her in-laws. Her in-laws are speaking up for her because of just how bad it was. He's a loser who's probably allegedly philandering within 3 weeks after this whole thing happens. But yeah, she's not alone. Oh, she's not alone. Now, in all of this, I want to say women need help, and they're not getting it. And in some ways, this is one of the biggest challenges for me is after the fact. Even my wife struggled with some of this stuff, and I didn't know until afterwards. Because at the time, she didn't trust me and the people around us to know better, to have a right reaction. And that's a shame on me, and that's a shame on us. We've got to do better. We've got to do better. Now, there is a positivity out there. And I want to play this for you.
Men and a few women who are saying that postpartum depression generally is somehow lack of willpower, or that postpartum psychosis doesn't cause people to do violent things, or that postpartum depression is because of the selfishness of modern women or something. Please, please, please. Stop being a moron. You don't know what you're talking about when you say these things. period.
And I thought that was great. He's got a great point. And I have this picture here. Ben's about the only conservative out there that I know of. And again, I looked and I was trying to see if other big names like Glenn Beck and so on had mentioned it, and they haven't even talked about the story. But Ben is one of the only ones that's actually coming out with a reasonable stance saying, yes, there is a big difference, and you probably were not at the level of psychosis like she was, but you were struggling with your life, and we don't even know how to help with these situations in many cases. Well, it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there with Ben being good, positive, and Matt being the only idiot. No, there has to be a pileup. And I'm going to at them, by the way. I'm going to at them when I post my video, and I'm going to at them when I put it on X. And I doubt that any of them will ever notice because I'm such a small channel, but we'll see. So here is Michael Knowles, and this is how his show started today. And I couldn't. As soon as I heard it, I just couldn't. I was blown away. Here we go.
Women around the country are defending Lindsay Clancy, the mother of 3 who allegedly murdered all of her children before trying unsuccessfully to kill herself. Now, a crucial fact of this case is that basically no one disputes Clancy's having committed the crime.
Now, I want to pause you there, Mike. Actually, no, there's a big movement online saying that no, she did not do the crime. So, absolutely no. I mean, I don't know where you're getting your numbers from, but it's flooding everywhere that I've known and everyone that I know about that knows about this. Let's continue.
The women defending Clancy are kind of like the Luigi Mangione supporters in that they don't support her because they think she's innocent. They support her specifically because they think she did it and is excused in doing it.
Okay, there's a difference between Luigi Mangione, who killed somebody because he didn't like the healthcare system, and someone who literally is out of their mind. Pretty easy to tell the difference, in fact. And that's if she did it.
We will examine why so many women are so crazy. Lindsay Clancy.
I thought that was great. And I clipped these. I clipped these for shortness. If you want to go in there and you want to say he said something different, go ahead. Present your evidence, because I watched it and I just clipped this for shortness, not to take any of his words out of context. He was going down this stream, and you can tell from when you watch this that is for sure true. Y'all women are crazy. Y'all women are crazy. Aren't you glad to know that while you're having mental health problems and you're suffering some of the worst issues of your life, some of the worst hormonal changes of your life, some of the most aloneness times of your life, you're crazy.
We know the details of this case. She's this woman who allegedly murdered all of her kids. She strangled all of her kids. The eldest, I think, was 5, and the youngest was 8 months old. She then jumped out a window to try to kill herself, and she failed. She paralyzed herself from the waist down, but she's still alive. She's standing trial. And a bunch of women are defending her. So Lindsay Clancy's defense is not that she was framed. Her defense is not that it was actually her husband set her up or something. There's some real wacko women who are arguing that. There's one actress who argued that she can't have committed the crime because women don't strangle.
Let me pause. Again, if you're interested in seeing, and I'm not one for pointing out string theories and all kinds of stuff like Candace is, but if you want to see a case, a textbook case for something that would drive a conspiracy, it's this case. It's 100% this case.
Clearly never met an angry Italian woman. They've never, because women do that. They definitely do that. But that's not the argument that Lindsay Clancy's attorneys are making. The argument that they're making is, yeah, okay, she might have committed the act, but she was insane. She was depressed.
Yeah.
She had postpartum depression.
Yeah.
She was on all sorts of psych drugs.
And she was. And the drugs were being changed so often. She had 15 within the space of a month.
For she can't be held culpable for the crimes. And she's getting a lot of support from a lot of crazy women all around the country. Here is a licensed therapist.
Now, before, I want you to do 2 things. Listen to what he's saying and don't listen to what he's going to say next. He's going to describe her for you so that you have a preconception of what she's like. I want you to both understand that and not watch it with his preconceptions and just listen to what she's saying.
In her social media, this woman says she's a licensed therapist, liberal voice on politics, culture, society, anti-racist, fascist, pro-LGBTQ. Here is her defense of Lindsay Clancy.
The Lindsay Clancy trial is going to be one of the most significant trials of your lifetime. We're all experiencing something completely unprecedented. Never before have we seen so many mothers and women rally behind somebody who confessed to killing her 3 children. And it is not because we cannot hold women accountable. Many of us see ourselves in Lindsay. Many of us know that we could have been only one step away from doing some of those horrific things because we experienced significant mental health issues after one of our children was born. And many of us know just how dark some of those thoughts get. So yeah,
That's the
this is
SSRI.
going to be
There's that faraway
one
look
of
in
the
her
most
eyes.
significant trials of your lifetime.
I love the fact that she pauses for effect, and his immediate response is, "Oh, it's her SSRIs. That's what's happening." What she's saying is, let me interpret for you men out there that don't seem to understand what this is when you're on one side of despair, you may not have been all the way on the other side of despair, but you can see that despair there. You can see it's ready to fall down the abyss. And you've all been there. And some of you who have experienced despair understand what I'm saying. And even though you see it, you may not have crossed that line into that despair and that level, but you knew it was there. You could see it. That's what she's saying. That's what she's saying. Not that she wanted to go kill her children.
Yeah, she killed all of her kids. But you know what? I see myself in Lindsay Clancy, and a lot of women, we
In her
see
struggles.
ourselves in Lindsay Clancy. Apparently that's true because they set up a GoFundMe for Lindsay Clancy. Now, it's not technically for her. I think it's technically for her family or something, but that's just a legal loophole to get around the fact that murderers are not permitted legally to profit off of their murders. So it's a loophole to try to get some money to her. They've raised almost $1 million. At last count, it was $839,000 and counting. Let's take the therapist at her word. Let's ignore the people who are saying, no, it's all a mistake. Actually, the defense attorney's in on it, and she didn't actually do it. The women don't strangle. But let's just take the greater number of women who were saying, no, she did it, but you know what? I want to murder my kids too. You know, she did it, but you know what? Postpartum depression's real.
Okay. I would like to see that. I would like to see the numbers on how many of these women are out there saying, I wanted to murder my children too. Because as far as I know, not a single person says that. They say, I have the struggles. I dealt with some major things that you can never overcome. Waking up in the middle of the night, just sweating to death in your space because your hormones are doing so much wacky things that you're just in a pool of sweat, suffering through all these things. We're walking around with a despair like the floor's going to fall out of you every minute of the day. That's what they're talking about.
Really bad. How do we make sense of that? First of all, the postpartum depression defense. My friend Matt Walsh got into a little bit of a hornet's nest yesterday because he said postpartum depression is totally fake. And he said postpartum depression is not real. It's just that mothers are really tired because they have to wake up like 5 times a night to feed the kid, and they're really stressed, and it's really hard. And I'm sure there is like an actual medical basis for postpartum depression, but yes, a lot of the difficulty when a baby is born, a lot of the difficulty the mother faces is that you're not sleeping. Your hormones are a little bit out of control, but also there's a ton of stress. You have to take care of this kid. If you have other kids, it makes it even more difficult. So yeah, it's a lot of like lifestyle factors. It's a lot of the changes to your life that are doing. It's a lot of sleep deprivation. All of that is true. But the other problem with the postpartum depression defense here is that the youngest victim of Lindsay Clancy was 8 months old. So postpartum depression, that would usually go away within 6 months. Some very rare cases, maybe further, but it would, yeah.
Please stop being a moron.
That's what I have to say to that. I'm going to use that clip because that's awesome. So, in case Michael Knowles doesn't know, postpartum can last up to 2 years. And in many cases, it lasts a lot longer than what he's saying. In fact, in the case that I will remind you, and I will tell the full story at the end of our friend, but it lasted with her for years. But no, he knows better. And I'm glad. And there is a part of me that's honestly the soft part of me that is very, very, very happy for Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles and people like them, who either the women that have never experienced this themselves or the men whose wives have never experienced this for themselves. And so they can say with such confidence that this is not a real thing because they've never experienced it, which is such a delight. I am very happy they did not suffer it because wouldn't wish that on anyone. But at the same time, it just seems a little bit naive.
And that's not the sort of thing that you still have 8 months into having a kid. So her better insanity defense is, well, I was on all of these psych drugs. And therefore I'm not responsible for killing my kids. And actually, I think a lot of women, I think they're with me, right? Let's go, girl power. You go, girl.
Here we go.
Sometimes we want to murder our kids. Sometimes we do it, right? And all these women rallying behind her. In other words, she is not responsible because she's on these drugs. Now, of course, 1 in 4 American women is on psych.
By the way, the defense is not saying that she's innocent by dint of drugs. Her postpartum psychosis was so great that she was on 15 different drugs over a month trying to figure out what they wanted to get her on to hopefully fix this problem. She was begging her husband to lock her in basements and things like that to keep her from hurting the children. She was reaching out wherever she possibly could to try to force help. She wasn't blaming the drugs.
This is one of the great epidemics, one of the strangest social facts of our time. 1 in 5 women are on psych drugs. There are men on psych drugs too, but the number is way, way, way lower. So if the argument is that if a woman is on psych drugs, she therefore can't be held accountable for any of her actions up to and including murdering her own kids, well, okay, all of a sudden now we've got a quarter of American women who can literally get away with murder.
That's not the argument.
This does remind me of the clip. Do you remember As Good as It Gets, one of the great Jack Nicholson movies? So year 2000 or maybe the late 90s. Nicholson plays a writer.
He has a personal vendetta against SSRIs. And again, I'm not a big SSRI person. I get it. There's been abuse and all that kind of stuff. But to say that they literally have no place in society is nuts and insane. I know personally a story where I personally dealt with someone who had to have these drugs to overcome something, and they are doing better. And they are off the drugs now. It was for a temporary purpose. They had it, and they're doing better. I get it. I understand they can be complicated, but sometimes they're necessary at the same time.
And he's got all these female fans, and they ask him, how do you write women so well?
This is what he thinks of women.
How do you write women so well?
I think of a man, and I take away reason and accountability.
Yes, this is
one of the all-time great movie lines. That is Lindsay Clancy's defense. Lindsay Clancy's defense, and the defense being offered by all these women who are supporting her, is literally, well, a woman is like a man without reason or accountability. So a lot of people are shocked by it.
That is literally not at all what's being said. And I'm going to finish here, not finish here. He's got like another minute of this because he says some more asinine things and he ties it into something I think is very important, because a lot of the conservatives are for some reason tying it into this like it's the real thing. I'm
obviously the crime itself is shocking, but then the reaction is scandalizing people even more. How could all of these women defend Lindsay Clancy murdering her kids? And I would just like to remind people,
they're not.
I think this is missing from the Lindsay Clancy discourse. You know, half of American women overtly defend infanticide, right? You know that? You remember that?
Here it comes.
You remember that half of women in this country, many of whom are not on psych drugs,
this is a thought
many
leader
of
on the
whom
conservative
do not
side.
have postpartum depression, half of women in this country go to the ballot box, go on television,
Explain to me,
go
women.
to political rallies holding signs.
Explain to me, women, why some of the biggest followers of his channel are women, and yet I can't get over 135. And here I'm trying to point out his stupidities with this stuff. Sorry, side note, personal.
Specifically to defend murdering their own children. You remember that? We call it abortion. Now that we use euphemisms like women's rights. The fact that women's rights is now a euphemism that refers exclusively to killing your own kids should mean that we are not surprised by this. Lindsay Clancy did the same thing. She did the same thing, except it's more evocative, it's more graphic, it's harder to deny what Lindsay Clancy did, but it is the same thing. It's just killing your kids. So when these crazy liberal women come out, they're the ones who say, I'm pro-liberal, I'm pro-LGBT, I'm anti-racist, I'm all the left-wing slogans. When they come out there and say, I sympathize with Lindsay Clancy, I see myself in her, yeah, they're being honest.
So that's his full point. And his final point is that the reason why all these women are supportive of her is because of abortion. Because really, it's abortion that's the problem. And again, I am not for abortion. I agree with that concept that abortion is bad. We don't want to kill babies. No one wants to kill babies, okay? Even the women that are coming to defend here, Clancy here, Lindsay, are not saying that. How asinine and stupid to take the point that because people are saying, I understand your struggle that you're going through, that they're saying, I understand you want to kill your children. It's insane and it's wrong, and we've got to do better. And here's something that I wanted to explain. So I wrote this down. I thought this was interesting. And there's a difference between postpartum and depression and postpartum psychosis. Postpartum depression is not simply being tired or having a bad day. It can mean crushing guilt. Look at the defining words here. Crushing guilt, shame, hopelessness. I don't know the last time you didn't have hope, but hopelessness, panic attacks, inability to sleep or eat, feel disconnected from your baby, withdrawn from the people you love, and thoughts of suicide or self-harm. Postpartum psychosis is even more severe with all of those things, and still, it's a medical emergency, obviously. A woman can become severely confused or disoriented, go with days with little or no sleep, experience racing thoughts, dramatic mood shifts, act completely out of character, feeling paranoid or losing touch with reality, and it can get worse. It can include hallucinations, seeing or hearing things that are not there, and delusions, fixed false beliefs that feel completely real to the person experiencing them. In the worst case, these symptoms can include commands or thoughts involving self-harm or harm to the baby. And I'm going to ask you this question. If you have ever, and I watched a lot of war documentaries growing up as a child and hearing POWs coming back, a lot of these same things that you notice in psychosis are some of the most horrible side effects that people would face coming back from extreme torture, where they'd be turned on their people because of these things. Now, the hormones are what's playing the role in here. But it's amazing to me that the company, now not Ben, but the company, Matt, specifically Matt Walsh, the people that are saying out there saying, what is a woman, and having a whole documentary on the differences between a man and a woman, are telling you, no, woman, listen to me. I'm a man. I'm going to tell you what you can or cannot feel, what you can or cannot have medically happening to you, and whether you can or cannot sympathize with someone's struggles in their life. Now, if that doesn't sound asinine to you and stupid beyond all belief, I don't know what does. And again, the people that are out there fighting and saying that trans issues are a problem, and I agree. But you can't say that and then also not defend women when it comes to a situation like this where women are just asking for help. Did you know? I bet you didn't know. But did you know that they're just now starting to research women's hearts? Because they just now realized after decades and decades of doing open heart surgery on women that women and men have different hearts. You heard me. Now, it reminds me of a story back in the good old days when they would dissect apes because they couldn't autopsy humans, or it was difficult to. And so then when they had to fix a human, they would try to fix it to match the diagrams they had from apes. We're just as barbaric as we ever were if that's how we deal with things. Do you know one of the things that 1 in 5 women in America have, which is PCOS, I think it's polycystic ovarian syndrome. I'm sure I'm saying it not wrong, but PCOS, look it up. 1 in 5. Some of the major studies that were spent involving hundreds of millions of dollars came out to show you that women with PCOS are more attractive than other women. Yeah. That's the research that's being done on women things. And you wonder why women are going to the left. Now, at the beginning of this story, at the beginning of this whole thing, I told a story of a young woman who we know, my family knows intimately. She was in our wedding. The sweetest person you could ever meet. Would never, ever, ever harm a fly. Would never. Who meant a lot to a lot of people. And her postpartum got so bad to her that while she was pregnant with her next kid, which unfortunately they had kids pretty quickly. Again, I'm not going to get involved in that. She realized that her child, one of her children, was very similar to her because of her mental struggles that were so real to her, were so horrible. In her mind, she thought it was the right thing to do was to make sure he never had those struggles. So again, on a busy road in Maine, freeway, she pulled over to the side, got out of the car, grabbed her child, held him in her arms, and then stepped in front of a semi. And she's in heaven. And the best news is that God knew that was going to happen. And the very car behind that semi was an ambulance, the pair of paramedics, who stopped and were able to save that boy. He's alive today because of that. We can't keep failing these women. We can't. Here's a clip, post by a lady by the name of Hannah Cox. And she was responding to this. And she said, in contrast to the disgusting MAGA men on X who spent the week claiming PPD isn't real or calling women baby killers, who discuss their experiences, TikTok, the female dominant platform, is filled with the opposite. Women posting their husbands with the tag, I survived postpartum because he made me, sorry, I apologize, I should have crossed that out. Darn sure I did along with screenshots of their husbands stepping up during that time are trending. There's good men out there. They are not in MAGA circles, which I'll get to that in a second. It matters who you have kids with. Be very intentional, ladies. Now, she's wrong. People that are claimed to be MAGA are not always the crazy nut ones. Unfortunately, you always get called out by the crazies. But a bunch of women were posting their families and talking about how their husband did what was necessary to help them get through it. But there was a man that I know, and he didn't know what his wife went through. And this is happening. We're hearing about it a lot right now. This is someone I know personally. And his wife was going through so much severe trauma mentally after the birth of their baby that she would go, after he fell asleep, into the kitchen and stand next to the butcher block of knives and try to talk herself down from doing something to herself. And this didn't happen once. This happened many, many, many times. And when she finally told him the struggles she was going through, he was able to help her overcome those things and work through it, and spent multiple nights awake with her, trying to help her through her tears and crying and so on else, until she was able to get equalized and able to get the help that she needed. There are good people out there, and there are good men out there. And you have to ask yourself this question. I know this has been a long video, but are we doing our part to help those around us? And women, do you feel like you can trust the men that are around you? The people that you should be looking to for help, your family, to get what you need from them? Do you feel like you can? And if you can't, then change that. Not change the people necessarily, but start breaking those bridges now, so that when the time comes and you're having to deal with those problems, or might, hopefully not, but if you do have to deal with that, you have the family and the people around you that you need to help you through this. And let us do better as a society to make sure that we are working hard to help everyone, not just the easy ones. Because it's like Ben said, it's easy to fix a broken leg. We can see the problem. But sometimes the hardest, the greatest struggles are like this. I'm Caleb Smith. This is the Tradesman Talk Show. If you've enjoyed or appreciated anything you've seen here today, please like, comment, subscribe. I'm trying to grow my channel because I'm tired of the conservatives that don't hold my views. They're not balanced, not understanding not truly wearing the principles of the Bible or God, and have no compassion. We need to both have compassion and justice in our country. Please join me in my cause and my desire to spread the word. Thank you so much.